As we like to give you audio relating to CJ Stroud that's going to get you ready to rock and roll for 2024 when the Houston Texans are back on the field looking to go boldly where they've never gone before, which is at least to the AFC Championship. At least to the AFC Championship. That's all we want next year. Lowered expectations for the Texans, but come on, you got to kick that door down. You got to do it. It hasn't happened very often here, even when the Oilers were in town. It's like 1979. The Steelers and the Oilers. That was the last time. It's been a while. Anyway, CJ Stroud, a lot of reasons to be excited about his career, his future. He was on Cam Newton's podcast, and Cam Newton implied that Stroud may have had the best rookie season of all time. In fact, perhaps a rookie season that was better than Newton's record-setting year with the Carolina Panthers in 2011.
You had a great rookie season, bro.
Yeah, but we ain't make it the playoff. We didn't win.
I hear you.
You won.
Yeah.
And you made that look sexy where you was standing on business.
Appreciate that.
And it wasn't even more of your performance more so than you just defying the odds, bro. You did it with so much class, so much grace. And really, I'll take you a step back. Your game versus Georgia, that was the national championship.
Semifinal.
Feel me?
Yeah.
I knew then. I was like, oh, because you don't, if it ain't SEC in the South, you don't really get to really gauge it. Like, y'all play at noon.
Right.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we just getting off the, the tailgating of college football. But, bro, like, you really, that was your coming out party. And to keep following it up and then following it up and following it up, that's what I was most impressive about, because really that market that you went in, it wasn't set up for you to win like you won.
Cam Newton is an SEC guy. First thing we learned. Cam Newton only pays attention to the SEC.
These Ohio State games are just so hard to find. When's Ohio State even play? It's like he plays in the WAC.
I do love the SEC superiority complex. It's great. I mean, look, as someone who grew up rooting for the Florida Gators, I empathize with it. Because before that national championship game in 2006 between or I guess it was 2007, but after the 2006 season between Florida and Ohio State, everyone thought Ohio State was going to walk through that game easily and that Michigan should have been in the national title. And that's where the SEC said, shut up. The Midwest blows. You guys suck. I think it was like 45 to like 12 or something like that, the final score.
41-14.
Thank you. It was close.
Because I remember because the score is flipped.
Look at you. That's
I remember it.
You're like Ben Affleck in The Accountant, with that.
Come on.
What? I'm just saying you're good with numbers. I'm not saying the other thing.
Yeah, it's not like you're saying the other thing. Could have gone with Goodwill Hunting. A well-adjusted Boston genius as opposed to the unwell-adjusted Boston genius.
I don't know. I don't think either of them are well-adjusted, to be perfectly honest.
Will was a little bit more adjusted.
A little bit. But, I mean, listen, I feel like the other one, he adjusted himself to be a Ben Affleck's character in The Accountant. He trained himself to be an incredible assassin. Like one of the GOATs, where Matt Damon's character in the
just went to work for NASA. Ugh.
I mean, no, he drives across the country. We have no idea what he's about to do.
Wasn't that to work for NASA?
He's got to go see about a girl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he isn't doing anything. He gets all these great offers. He has blown potential, this guy. They're going to be broken up in months. Months! He's going to be a deadbeat on the couch. Anyway, sorry. Bringing it back. CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud proved it against Georgia.
There are so many recent players who are already crediting CJ Stroud as one of the best. And there's always a little bit of a honeymoon phase when it comes to a player like CJ Stroud and his coverage. But there's also a bit of an element, I think, with all players who are no longer playing of thinking to themselves, well, I was better, or our era was toughest tougher to play in. And yet, there has yet to be a serious zagger against C.J. Stroud. We heard a zag earlier today to Sean Gibson, Houston Texans legend, who in the middle of the Super Bowl that we just saw on Sunday basically said Patrick Mahomes is just like every other quarterback in the league. And whether he was trying to hype himself up or his teammates up, or actually speaking what he really believes, you have yet to see that with Stroud. It's only been one season. I'm sure at some point it'll come. All it's going to take is a couple of playoff losses, and we're maybe looking at him the same way that we at times look at Josh Allen, that we at times look at Josh Allen through that prism. Unfortunately, those two guys, speaking of Patrick Mahomes, they have to beat him. C.J. Stroud has to beat him. Only guy in the AFC that's beaten Mahomes in a big game that matters, still going, is Joe Burrow. That's it. But I love hearing the amount of deference and the amount of praise that Stroud is getting from guys who have recently played in the league. And maybe part of that is also just a matter of everyone has a podcast. Everyone's got an ability to talk on social media. So we're getting more of it than we've seen with past young quarterbacks. But everyone really likes him. Going a little bit further, there's another podcast I was checking out. We've played audio from this podcast before. This isn't Cam Newton's podcast. This is a podcast of a couple of Colts players. It's EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin, I believe. Seems like it's a pretty fun podcast. They had T.Y. Hilton on the show. You remember him. T.Y. Hilton has the most ridiculous numbers for any wide receiver against the Houston Texans ever. His numbers against the Texans are just incredible. So, Sean, were you about to say something? Sorry about that.
No, I was just going to say how incredible they are.
They are nuts. We don't even need to relist them.
They need like a parental advisory. It comes up before you look them up. Like, they're just absolutely gruesome.
They're traumatic. Trigger warning, T.Y. Hilton against the Houston Texans. I mean, the guy even wore a clown mask after Jonathan Joseph called him a clown. He made Jonathan Joseph, who is one of the toughest players in Texans history, he made Jonathan Joseph look like a fraud. And I hate saying that because I love Jonathan Joseph. He's one of my favorite Texans that I've covered here. But he just kicked his ass. And he kicked every Houston Texans ass over the course of his career. So I can understand why Joseph would get mad at T.Y. Hilton. But Hilton on this podcast with EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin was asked who he sees in the NFL today that reminds him of him. You're going to love this answer.
It's still early, but I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna make some of y'all mad, but they're a part of the city that I own, right? CJ and Tank Dell, bro. Them two right there, bro. Like, I feel like they're more off-camera guys. You feel me? Like, well, off-script guys. You feel me? Like, CJ could scramble, Luck could scramble. CJ's looking for one person. Luck could scramble, he's looking for one person.
I hate that he just said that because I agree.
And it's crazy because, like, bro, I was watching one of their games and CJ scrambled and just threw it to Tank.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Back right corner.
Yes, sir. Just threw it to Tank. I say, well, I got on my phone, I tell my homeboy, I say, yo, that look like me and Luck, bro. Like, no cap. Like, that's different. And as I kept watching them, they kept going off script. And then when they get on script, like, it's just like, man, how are we going to start these two?
It's an apt comparison. Same draft class in Indianapolis. Probably the best pick by Ryan Grigson and the Colts. Because, yeah, they got Andrew Luck. That's the first overall pick. That was the obvious pick. Everyone knew they were going to do that. But they got T.Y. Hilton, I believe, in the third round, much like the Houston Texans got Tank Dell in the third round. And then on top of that, you compare the speed, you compare the size, the ability of those two to get past defenders. I think it's a great comparison made by T.Y. Hilton to himself. And if they have T.Y. Hilton and Tank Dell, that's damn good. T.Y. Hilton's not quite Hall of Fame, but, I mean, and look, the Colts have had some really good wide receivers over the years, but, I mean, he was one of the most terrifying wide receivers. Obviously, we learned that the hard way in the AFC South ever. I think that's a very fair point to make. So I like the Dell comparison, and that is a good point when it comes to Stroud and it comes to extending plays. And it was one of the things that was definitely missing and made everything feel a lot more difficult the last couple of games of the year. Because once Dell went down, everything did feel a little bit more difficult. And obviously that's going to happen when you lose someone like Dell. But it was specifically those improv moments. Because it did seem like it came to a point where Stroud was only looking for Collins. And nothing against Nico Collins, who I think is proven he's a really good receiver himself. But it's more difficult for a big guy like that to get open as quickly, change direction as quickly as someone like Tank Dell has clearly proven he can do. So Dell's health, huge priority this coming season. Maybe don't have him, I don't know, in a situation where someone could potentially roll into him around the defensive line, especially when he is smaller than me and is probably going to do less than me when it comes to blocking defenders on the goal line. And that sounds like a a-hole statement to say. I'm sorry, man. I don't know. What are we doing? He's 5'8", 165. What are we doing here? What are we doing? I was a good blocker in high school.
I know.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding on that front. But look, the hyperbole was made to make a point here. Just don't have him in that area because Stroud has a lot of ability, obviously. We like him as a pocket passer. We like his decision-making. We like his averseness to mistakes. But his improv is 100% made better by a guy like Tank Dell. And the idea that you're going to find another Tank Dell in the draft, that's misallocated resources. You need the draft picks. You need to use them on other players, I think. And at the same time, in free agency, same thing. We all want to see the Texans add someone sexy, like a wide receiver of some sort, so that this offense is seemingly unstoppable. But no, you just got to keep Tank Dell healthy because you got to Tank Dell, and you got to keep this guy as long as you possibly can.